Thank you, sir. Now we'll move on to our next session for the day. Our next session will be on the topic protecting marine ecosystem, a key strategy for climate resilience. Now, to introduce our speaker and welcome him, I kindly invite Professor Dr. David K. Daniel. Please, sir.
Yeah, once again, good evening to all the participants and my hearty welcome to Dr. S. Vijay Nandan, who is a senior professor and is the Dean Faculty of Marine Sciences, Cochin University of Science and Technology. He was the former Vice Chancellor in charge of Kannur University. He is also member, syndicate member and Senate in the Senate of Cochin University of Science and Technology, and is having over 30 plus years of academic administration, research, and teaching. Dr. Nandan is an exceptionally accomplished researcher and an academician interested in transdisciplinary research with expertise in marine biology, marine pollution, climate science, and polar biology. His research findings have created a data platform critically supporting evidence-based policy decisions. He was the former head of the Department of Marine Biology in Cochin University of Science and Technology, the head of Central Inland Fisheries Research Institute Center, ICAR of Kerala Unit, and senior officer at the Central Institute of Fisheries, Nautical and Engineering Training, CIFNET, Government of India. Dr. Bijoy also was a former technical member of the Kerala State Pollution Control Board. He was awarded the prestigious UGC DSR Mid-Career Award in the year 2021. The US Fulbright Fellowship, he was a Fulbright Fellow during 2013-14. He has got the ZSI Recognition Award in 2008 and the Jawaharlal Nehru Award of the Indian Council, ICR, Indian Council of Agricultural Research, Government of India, for his outstanding doctoral thesis, which was in 1993. He is also a permanent expert, international expert group, Lomonosov Moscow State University Marine Research Center, which is abbreviated as LMSU-MRC in Russia. As principal investigator, he has 39 research and consultancy-based national and international projects completed and are ongoing, including compensation project in the Arabian Gulf Coast, Indian Arctic research project, and mangrove die-off project at the country called Maldives. Several international and national collaborative activities and memorandum of understanding for academic growth and enhancement has been achieved by him. He has mentored 32 doctoral students, 15 postdoctoral fellows, 22 MPhil students, and 79 master students. And his research productivity also is equally remarkable, with 173 original research papers, 19 books, with a very good H-index of 25, and over 2,086 citations with an I-10 index of 66. In recognition to his contribution in marine biology, a new species of deep sea wood boring mollusk was named Xylophaga nandani, and a crab species Anictumus bijoy in his honor. So we are really honored to have you, sir, with your great contributions to the area where you are involved in, and we all are looking forward for a very fruitful, informative session where we also get an understanding of this marine biology and in connection with climate change. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's a very broad, elaborate. Thank you for the elaborate description. Thank you. I'm so happy to be part of the AICTE ATAL FDP program of the Amal Jyoti Engineering College, Chemical Engineering Department of the college. So happy to be part of this FDP program. And thankful to Dr. Suraj Rajan and other faculty members of the Chemical Engineering Department. Now, I will just switch on to my topic. I will share my PowerPoint slide, and after which I will just yeah, yes, I'm sharing. Is it visible? The
Yes, yes.
PPT is visible. Okay, nice. Thank you so much. I think over 80 of the FDP colleagues who are participating in today's program. It's very interesting to interact with you and associate with you in this FDP program. Okay, and I'm just hearing a few, just few minutes. I was just hearing to the previous talk on the glaciers and Arctic systems, and which are also intensely reeling under the impact of climate change. And in fact, I'm also part of the Indian Arctic program and the polar research. Definitely, I have a few inputs on that in this talk, which I'll be delivering for. I think I'll be taking about an hour or so, plus in which I will. I have structured this talk or this lecture. I am possibly the first part will be the major. What are the major climate issues and how and what is the basic simple reason why marine ecosystem, the larger ocean system, the Indian Ocean, how it is seriously affected by the larger issue of climate change, the carbon dioxide, the warming of the sea level rise. I will touch upon all these aspects specifically, and the biological pump, the ocean pump, how it is structuring, how the normal grazing food chain and the microbial food chain and the dissolved organic carbon, all these are structuring the transfer of energy and the fixation of carbon or the carbon sequestration, and how it is going to control or regulate your huge, enormous release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Maybe 420 ppm is almost now, and the 1.5 degrees crossed now India, world. It is about 2024. We have crossed the 1.54 degrees, and it's alarming. We have crossed. We have not pledged, gone with the pledge of the Paris Declaration. So intensely, almost 71%, 70.5 or 70.8, or about 71% of we have oceans, and this ocean is a very important and significant regulator, manager, regulator, controller. I call it as a significant maneuvering system of ecosystem, large ecosystem, huge marine ecosystem, which actually regulates, the key regulator of the climate. And what are the actions we need to take? How carbon trading happens? What is it trading? What is offsetting? And what are the carbon taxes we need to come up? And what are some of the regulatory systems and how the COP systems are working, and largely focused on marine systems. And I was also very much happy that I could deliver a talk for the recently held BRICS Congress as part of the BRICS, the first BRICS Scientific Congress held in Sochi in Russia. And that was also largely devoted to climate science. The entire climate related to marine systems was discussed in along with various other ecosystems. And I could deliver representing India also in this great BRICS Congress held in Sochi recently. So let us now move on to the protecting marine ecosystems with this background, a key strategy for climate resilience. See, we know that 70% of the Earth's form the large planetary ecosystem, oxygenator of the planet, and the biggest oxygenator means you have the phytoplankton. We have the large water storage and hydrological cycle, which almost form about 97% of the Earth's water stored in marine systems, controls and maintains the global hydrological cycle. It's the life of the marine systems. I've just given here the different marine systems. You cannot isolate it. You have the large oceans, the Indian Ocean, the Atlantics, the Pacific, the Arctic, the Southern Ocean. and you have the smaller oceans also around you, the various seas around the Caspian Sea, the Gibraltar and the Gulf Coast, and all these are larger, and also the marginal marine ecosystems, the coral reefs, the coastal systems, the mangroves, the estuaries, the intertidal zones, the pelagic systems. See, all these are huge interconnected ecosystems, So marine ecosystem is so vibrant and has a capability and so resilient to enclose and to adjust to the climatic changes or the warming and the rise in sea level or the kind, but you are crossing the barriers. You're crossing the planetary boundaries. That's why I call it, it's the largest planetary ecosystem. The planetary boundaries are very important. The planetary boundary of temperature, the planetary boundary of your atmospheric greenhouse emissions, your planetary boundary of pollution, your planetary boundary. You have your boundaries, but you're crossing the boundaries. So the life in marine systems contain almost 90% of the total biomass of Earth. Nearly, you have over 200 to like 30,000 identified organisms. Of actual numbers may even go to millions, and a drop of seawater, my friends, it's almost as many as 35,000 species of bacteria. And these ecosystems provide the greatest services to humanity. That's as per the recent Millennium Ecosystem Assessment Report. You have the provisioning services, you have the regulating services, you have the supporting services. See, this is with regard to any ecosystem. And largely, yesterday I was giving a lecture for almost, yesterday was a day which was plant a tree for your mother. You're planting a tree for the mother. That's the Mother Earth. And that I was just giving a lecture for about over an hour on mangroves and how it's going to be sustained in the climate scenario. I'm just dwelling a little bit on how mangroves also are important in carbon, maintaining the carbon ecosystem in the huge of our universe, and our Mother Earth is also very important. So provisioning the systems and fisheries, maybe as fuel viewed alternative energy in natural sources, genetic and pharmaceutical, or regulating services is also very important. Regulating is very, very, very important about all these services. They maintain your weather, they maintain your carbon, they maintain your shoreline, they maintain your how to natural resorts, they maintain your nutrient, organics, all your pollutants, your toxic materials, your contaminants, all these are regulated by the regulating services. You need to have a balance of all this, and ecosystems are changing globally. You have a kind of even whether there's an amplification, the amplification is happening across continents. I call it across continents because whatever you do is just amplified in the Arctic. Whatever you do here in the tropical and subtropical regions gets amplified in the polar regions, or maybe in the Himalayas, or in these. So this is the kind of ecosystems that is good. See, whatever you do, the mercury pollution or the carbon or the heavy metal contamination or the pesticide pollution or the other kind of emerging contaminants which is polluting the ecosystems in tropical systems, it's getting amplified. It's just getting aerially aerosol transported to various ecosystems around the globe. So in Arctic systems also, we have recorded high amount of mercury beyond the thresholds. We have also recorded metallic contaminants. So this is the kind of, and also you're recording so many kinds of changes which largely influencing the marine system. So marine systems are vibrant. It's also, and the resilience is enormous. But if you are crossing the borders, you are getting affected. So the regulating services, the supporting services, the soil, yes, soil is the health of the ecosystems and the marine health of the soil ecosystems. The soil systems in these zones are really very important. And the photosynthesis and the nutrient cycling, the supporting cultural service naturally. So the provisioning, regulating, cultural supporting, and the fundamental affecting the food. See, we will speak a bit. I'm going to speak, my friends, mostly on the food web dynamics also, how it's going to link to the marine ecosystems if it's specific to climate science. Now, what do you look into the nutrients are very important role in regulating the food web dynamics. You see the organics, inorganics. You have your nitrogen limitation. You have your phytoplankton affected. You have your phosphorus limitation. You have your zooplankton and other phytoplankton affected. You have your carbon limitation. You have your other set of organisms, the benthic and other carbon, your benthic, the fishes, all are getting. So the limiting factors of nutrients are also very, very important. And the recycling and the movement of ions and these nutrients across the food web from oceans, starting from the from the Arctic to the Pacific to the Atlantic to the Indian Ocean is a jet, is a jet of water and the jet of currents which move around and transport your nutrients and your food across the continents. You should see as a global conveyor belt. They call it as a global conveyor belt of in the ocean, and it takes about 1,000 years for one cycle of the global conveyor belt, which moves around the ocean and transporting all these food. That is the food in the form of nutrients, the food in the form of carbon, food in the form of other particulate matter, food in the form of inorganics, all required by the organisms, and the large set of communities which is spreading across the continents. So please understand, my friends, the redistribution of bottom substrates, the soil and the sediment is very, very characteristic. The regulation of carbon fluxes and the sequestration is very, very important. And also the maintenance of genetic species and the ecosystem diversity. See, fundamental ecosystem services is very vital in ecosystem services in marine systems. Demand-derived ecosystem services, see, where I am speaking, there will be some repetitions and there will be some kind of repetition. Don't bother about it, but that will be linked to what I say prior, and it is very, very important. So demand-derived ecosystem, the production of food, ultimately, you need the fishery, you need the other resources, which is going to be derived from through your food web, the energy which is fixed in different trophic levels, the energy transfer in trophic levels, how much of 10% of the energy is lost and rest is fixed. And you have a fixation also there in different ecosystems, maybe seagrass, maybe you have your coral reefs, or you have the coral ecosystems, means mangroves. So how much of energy is fixed in different vary, but almost you're losing with just 10%. So the fixation rate you have. Aquaculture production is also very important, and also pharmaceutical and bioprospecting supply of aesthetic value and the supply of recreational activities are very, very important. If you have any difficulty in hearing me, or if you have a presentation, there's a mix-up or a stop, sudden juggling or something, please inform me. Please inform me immediately, because it's in virtual presentation, so there can be a network issue and things like that. So now let me just come to the global carbon cycle. See, the global carbon cycle you need to have when I get into the marine system, the ocean system, the larger ocean system, the coastal ocean system, the coastal systems, or the marine mother, you need to have an idea on the global carbon cycle, because basically your carbon cycle, maybe the methane gets which converted to carbon dioxide, or your nitrous oxide, which ultimately gets converted to your carbon dioxide. Ultimately, it's the carbon dioxide or the carbon, which ultimately you have to regulate in relation to climate change. And that is what you have to focus on. So I'm just going to start with the global carbon cycle. You can see the complex array of energy changes and the transportation of photosynthetic activities, and you can see the role of various activities happening in the soil reservoir. You see annual fluxes of carbon reservoirs in the global. This is by Sias in 2004. Atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration surpassed any time beyond 420 ppm. Escalating the presence of carbon emissions raises environmental apprehensions to global. And also, just as in the previous talk, you have the permafrost thawing, you have the glacier melting. Yesterday, I was just going through the huge glacier, because you have in ice sheets, you just know, but glaciers have huge quantities of water along with snow, and you have a huge, I just hearing the news that a huge ice, the glacier is moving across from Russia and is going to pound in the Antarctic water. It is from the Antarctic, it is broken off, and this huge glacier is going to, because of climate change. You see the temperature is warming 1.45 degree you have crossed. So it's alarm bells, it's alarm bells. So please understand this huge iceberg, it's huge, extremely huge, that you are not going to, it is going to crash in Antarctica along the coast, and people are just, the scientists are warning, should be very, very careful. And this movement of the huge along the, it's started from the Antarctica along the Russian side, and it is just moving, and it is moving very fast. And this is going to happen. This is going to happen. You have and also the permafrost thawing, the thick residue of organic content, so laced with all your carbon dioxide. Everything is stuffed inside the permafrost in the organic stuff. It's high organic enriched stuff. and it is started releasing your carbon. You know, see, permafrost thawing is definitely going to really cause really serious issues. You know, rising in sea levels and alterations in the precipitation patterns and ocean acidification is all going to happen. So if you look at here, I've just given this CCIE et al. I've just reproduced from here. You can see the ocean atmospheric exchange of gases. You can see here sea ocean release of from the deep sea ocean floor is also, and the marine biota is also getting releasing a lot of carbon. You can see dissolved organic carbon about 700 gigatons. You have almost atmospheric 589 plus 240 at the range, you know, and the average atmospheric increase is 4 picogram per carbon per year, you can see, and the gross compared to this. So your vegetation is having an important role, your permafrost has an important role. So all your carbon is stacked and stored in all these reservoirs. And once these climate changes in the temperature and the atmospheric warming, and you are not able to store these, you have about 35,000 gigatons of carbon stored in the ocean and ocean systems. So you're going to see, and you're going to release it, means it's going to be catastrophic, you know, as you're witnessing the changes what's happening in 2024 or beyond. See, the carbon stocks of gigatons atmosphere, you have 750 gigatons oceans. It can store almost surface water 1,000 gigatons, 34 to 38 gigatons is what I told in deeper waters. And you have the terrestrial 500, you have soils almost. Marine ecosystem is the largest sink of carbon dioxide. My friends, please remember, carbon dioxide is major, and it has got a major role in carbon sequestration. It's almost 2% of carbon you have than they emit every year. Blue carbon is something, you see, you have government of India under the present Prime Minister, he has laid the very strong foundation for the last 10 years on the blue economy enhancement. So blue economy building up in fisheries, blue economy building up in marine sector. Blue economy is going to nurture your growth, you know, because you're going to trap your blue carbon. You need to structure it. You're going to have seaweeds, algae growth. Algae is going to conserve all your carbon. So you need to sequester the bioengineering, geoengineering process in which carbon is fixed in ecosystems. So you have biological sequestration of carbon in the sea. So in the ocean, how it's fixed, I'm going to come into that. So now you can see that this huge amount of carbon, you see, is going to go into the biological pump. And the main food, you have the planktonic organisms, the microbial organisms, how much of refractory dissolved organic carbon is fixed, how much goes to the organic microbial pump, how much is going to be the available dissolved carbon, and all these, and ultimately your carbon dioxide is released ultimately. So the blue carbon has to be managed well, otherwise it's going to be destructive. For which, you know, the biological pump or the solubility pump, you can also call it as a solubility pump in oceans. You have the interaction with the sea, you have the interaction with the atmosphere. So the atmosphere, stratosphere, the ocean are all very important in maintenance of climate change and regulating the ecosystems. See, when you look at this biological pump proposed by Roger Rover, you know, this biological pump was proposed by Roger Rover. It's otherwise known as a solubility pump. It's very important because the transfer of energy, and it's very simple. As most of you who are biologists or who have a background in biology will be knowing about, should have learned about the food web changes, the energy transfer across the trophic tire, and all these are very important. But the intricate aspects where energy and the carbon is fixed is very, very important. And ultimately, which is going to be your refracted carbon. See, you know, there are different kinds of you have the grazing food chain, you have the carbon, which is basically the grazing food chain is here. You have the small phytoplankton, which is also grazed upon by the zooplankton. Then you have the larger secondary consumers. You have the prawns, the crabs, and other crustaceans, which again goes under predation, and that is also taken by the jellyfishes, the fishes, and so on. Then you have the set of respiration, which is also excreted out, and it goes out, and this goes out as used by the microbial community, and large sections of this by their fecal matter of the zooplankton, which settles as and converted to dissolved in organic carbon later, sinks as fecal pellets and goes deep, which is again conserved by the benthic organisms, the myofauna, the macrofauna, and all these residing within the soil consume. So large sections of these are acted upon, and they dissolve, they go to the seabed. And you can see large section of this decompose and they're used. And there are also heterotrophic and bacteria, which is also taken up, and large goes into respiration. And this, then later, when these organisms, the secondary consumers, they die, they go sink to the bottom, and energy. So this kind of change of transfer of energy, maybe using particulate carbon, inorganic carbon, or what kind of carbon it is, it depends on the organisms that are being used. So you should understand that moving energy in marine ecosystems is very, very important in regulating the carbon. See, when I go for a pictorial representation, my friends, you have an atmospheric warming scenario. Then the seawater is warming. What happens immediately? The global climate action regulation sets in. When this happens, there is the intense issue of mitigation. And I'm going to link this atmospheric warming to a biological solubility pump. That's what happening within the ocean. Within the ocean, you see, don't think an ocean or a coastal marine system has, as you see, are the real regulators. If it's maybe in the polar region, maybe in the coastal, our Indian Ocean, maybe in our nearby Arabian Sea, or maybe in the Pacific coast, wherever it is, the role is the same, where the solubility pump has importance and immense responsibility to manage, offset, trade, everything. So it may be in the terrestrial also. Terrestrial will have another system, but the marine system, the process of exchange of gases, the physical gases exchange, and with the atmosphere happens. So this global mitigation is performed by the chemical processes. That is, you have a lot of gases, your pH, the gases are removed, the atmospheric marine fixed ecosystem, carbon fixation and sequestration. So this fixation and carbon sequestration going to the carbon cycle is very important through ecological process and functions. So this ecological process and functions is what I'm going to, it's underpinned by biodiversity. That's the solubility pump or the biological pump, which I showed you previously in a nutshell. So you have your atmosphere, you have your greenhouse gases, the carbon dioxide, it's going beyond 420. You have your pre-industrial levels, 220, 240. Okay, you're crossing the pre-industrial level. You have an atmospheric temperature. You have the temperature, and next you see, you have a climate dynamics happen. Immediately, what happens? Yes, comes the soluble carbon dioxide concentration. And this soluble carbon dioxide, this goes into, it will be absorbed, seawater temperature is also very relevant. That's why I said the biochemical changes in the soil, the physical-chemical temperature, the temperature has rise, the pH of the soil, the temperature of the soil, the sea dynamics changes. So this is a system, what Roger Revelle, he was a scientist in the Scripps Institute of Oceanography. See, this all happens because of the anthropogenic emissions. Your fossil fuel burning, your intense anthropogenic issues. So the increase in greenhouse gases, increase in temperature, then sea level rise. Okay, it is all cataclysmic. It is all related, interrelated changes, and the climate dynamics happen. So this is what the ocean is witnessing. And this is happening in the Indian Ocean. I'm just coming to later how heat waves are created in the Indian Ocean. Heat islands are getting created. Next, you have the sea dynamics changes. And this sea dynamics, my friends, and it's going to change your carbon dioxide and water solubility, and the solubility and the carbon dioxide is released ultimately, and dissolved inorganic carbonates also are released in large quantities. And this imbalance of charges happen within the ocean systems. So the anthropogenic emissions are ultimately the human-linked activities. You're going to burn your fossil fuels. You're going to dump your waste in the oceans. You're going to have pollution issues. You're going to you're going to have a top-down. No, you don't have a top-down food web. You're going to have a bottom-up phenomenon. See, the oceanic, your nutrients are enhancing because eutrophication. Your oligotrophy is also catching up. Oceans take up atmospheric carbon dioxide, restore the balance. You see, the increase in greenhouse gases. Yes, we need to know what happens to the solubility pump. This is where the crux of the ocean dynamics happen. I would say you all will be thinking that, oh, it's just climate science. No, the entire system happens within the solubility pump, where a large set of organisms do their duty to regulate it. You see what happens with the increase and change, and immediately the seawater temperature rises. Then in the marine system, the solubility pump we need to observe, or the ecological pump. In the ecological pump, the carbon dioxide is taken by large ecosystems. See, I would like all of you to understand one thing. The increase in carbon dioxide, yes, it endures, It breaks into carbon dioxide and water. It is going to go down into the large zooplankton are there, smaller zooplankton are there. It is going, the organic carbon are there, micro zooplankton, macro zooplankton. You have different kinds of grays. You see, you could see here, I'm just showing you here, the large amount of carbon is going to the deep sea. You can see here the solubility pump in a larger enlarged way. You can see carbon dioxide entering here, large algae is there, small phytoplankton, micro phytoplankton. But I will just take you to the larger primary producers like diatoms and dinoflagellates here form the basis of the grazing food chain in the oceans. These phytoplankton cells are largely consumed by the large herbivorous grazers, in particular the ubiquitous copepods, important group of zooplankton crustaceans you can see here. And what happens to these? The copepods, which measure just hardly 1 to 2 mm, consume large amount of phytoplankton efficiently using their appendages to siphon water through this. And what happens? The stream of water and the past flows through their mouth with tiny heads of mouth appendages in the phytoplankton cells. Yes, this is what happens in these consumption, and this food is taken here. And zooplankton, as you know, consumes also smaller fishes and other organisms in the ecosystems we know. And also, they also, such as jellyfish, as I showed, the secondary consumers also consume large amount. And the highly productive coastal upwelling systems also, if you look, you can see the zooplankton may not always be linked to the food chain. And here is what happens, in these systems, smaller fishes is often feed directly into larger phytoplankton cells, and also is something eaten is sometimes eaten by the larger fishes and the seabirds. And this grazing of food chain, and this grazing food chain is efficient, and this is fully exploited by humans who harvest on the small fish. But we need to know this energy flow, and we need to know the seizable portion of this primary production, this amount of energy and the carbon which is getting fixed here. Please understand this amount of carbon which is getting fixed here, and this amount of carbon is a seizable amount of primary production that goes into the ocean by the free floating photosynthetic bacteria known as the bacterioplankton, and its small size, the bacterioplankton, are literally engulfed or takes in or phagocytized by the small single-celled collectively called the flagellates and the ciliates, and they consume along with it, they consume large amount of large amount of seawater, thousands of ml, thousands of per ml of seawater, in the large liters of seawater, they consume the thousands of all these flagellates and ciliates will be there that will be taken by the large zooplankton. Now, this step represents a major energy transfer within the oceans. Mind you, friends, this is not just a fixation of carbon. There lies the essence of the climate science. The flagellates and the ciliates, they consume large amount of zooplanktons, and they enter the grazing food chain. This is the first step in the carbon fixation. Most of the energy which just gets transferred to this is transferred to the next trophic level through the direct consumption of organisms. And here what energy which is fixed is known as the dissolved organic carbon. And this dissolved organic carbon, and that is leaked into the seawater through the photosynthetic organisms. And the viruses, the large number of viruses present in the ocean, yes, what happens? They break, they lyse all these phytoplankton cells, and they release large amount of dissolved organic matter into the ocean, which is basically used by the phytoplankton and the smaller cells. The dissolved organic carbon. So the ultimate energy in which the fixation of carbon takes place, the initially at dissolved organic carbon, and this dissolved organic carbon is directly absorbed by the non-photosynthetic heterotrophic bacteria that use energy as a source. My friends who are not from the biology background, you may feel it a bit difficult, but the essence of carbon fixation is very, very primary and pivotal in understanding the climate science. As a biologist, you should know all these things, and this is the essence. Definitely carbon dioxide, methane are all part of it, but the bacteria that in turn is consumed by organisms, microorganisms such as flagellates and ciliates, then are again eaten up by the larger zooplanktons and the copepods. In this way, the dissolved organic matter or carbon is utilized by the whole ecosystem in the grazing food chain by the larger and the smaller zooplankton and also the bacterioplankton. Now, as I highlighted in the previous slide, see the large amount of fecal pellets, fecal pellets released by the zooplankton also settle and they generate what is known as the particulate organic matter. So the particulate organic matter is also something where energy flow, this largely goes to the detritus chain. So this particulate organic matter is also consumed by zooplankton and gets recycled back into the grazing food chain. And this is the way, and the remainder sinks, the remaining what carbon remains goes to the food source and the benthic organisms, which is largely sitting in the macrofauna, macrobenthic fauna, the meobenthic fauna dwelling in the bottom of the sea. And so the energy, what I would just to sum up in this biological pump is that the energy which through primary production in the oceans is a higher trophic level through different pathways, which I just various lengths, where transfer of dissolved organic matter, where transfer of labile organic matter, where transfer of particulate organic matter. And this process of transfer of dissolved accounts to over 700 gigatons of carbon immediately consumed by bacteria, and the labile organic matter. This is not fully, this is also available in partial forms during, and the recalcitrant carbon is also settled at the bottom. This is actually resistant to bacterial degradation. So this is the carbon which is stored. And my friends, you see, you have all these problem of climate science, the temperature warming, the release, and this, even the refracted carbon has to be stored. And the transformation of the labile to recalcitrant is responsible for carbon sequestration. So all your carbon, which is the carbon dioxide, the greenhouse gas, has to get fixed and gets to get synced, and it has to go to the sequestered and has to be stored. If it is released from the permafrost, it is going to get affected. So the some amount, when you look at the food web, you can see some amount of energy is lost in each level of the food web. And this is known as the efficiency of energy transfer from one trophic level to the next. That is, it's about 10%. That's why it's highlighted in the beginning that 10% of energy is lost. Hence, shorter ways are more efficient in the pathways, and why these pathways, energy ultimately gets transferred to large marine consumers such as fish, mammals, turtles, seabirds, and all these are targeted, to end with a non-marine species, that is the humans ultimately depend on these organisms, and we have our own activities which may destroy or which may regulate these marine systems. So please understand, my friends, that this carbon can be labile is also stable only just few days. Semi-labile stays for 1 to 2 days, 1 to 2 years. Semi-refractory stays for 20 years. Refractory dissolved carbon 16,000, ultra refractory or 40,000 years. So this carbon pump and the carbon fixation or the carbon sequestration is the biological pump, the carbon fixation of carbon dioxide through the vertical transportation through living biomass to the marine sediments. And the microbial loops I already explained, which goes through the dissolved organic carbon, the particulate organic carbon, I'm sorry. And the bacteria sequestering the nutrients in the environment which are consumed. See, large number of bacteria, large number of the physicochemical characteristics. All these are regulating the microbes. So the microbial loop has several bacteria which is regulating your carbon, storing your carbon, processing your carbon, consuming your carbon, or biotransforming your carbon, or even exporting your carbon. So in an environment, the microbial loop is really focusing on the organismal populations through thermocline. The microbial carbon pump is very much so the sequestration. So the carbon sequestration is pivotal in regulating your carbon, which has a very, very, very important role in regulating your climate. And the sequestration of carbon dioxide, atmospheric carbon dioxide through sequestration or transformation of labile organic matter to recalcitrant organic matter, focusing on the capacity of the oceans to store carbon dioxide is very, very important. And now, dissolved organic matter dynamics, I have already told. This Zhang et al. In 2018 gave a very interesting that it is a refractory dissolved organic carbon 60C and the microbial loop also. But the principle and the concept which I have told is the same. So labile and refractory production removal and export dynamics also worked by Matthew recently. But ultimately, please understand the movement of dissolved carbon and the inorganic carbon is basically depending on the climate dynamics, the physicochemical conditions, the geochemical conditions, all these have to be characterized. Otherwise, I told you the ocean warming, ocean acidification, rise in the acidification, the acidity, the changes in the pH condition can definitely is going a great botheration. So your carbon dioxide, how you're going to manage through your grazers, your heterotrophic organisms, your nutrients, your carbon. So this is very, and the marine gels and attached particulate organic matter are very crucial, and the export down, that's why I said at the beginning, you have an ocean which is very good, which is very stable, which is really very unaffected by climate change. That ocean will have a real top down energy transfer with efficient food pathways, with efficient 10%. But if you have a issue based, if you have a climate change, you have a serious a labile fraction which is going to get disintegrated fast. You have a recalcitrant carbon which is going to, it doesn't have a 40,000 years, it's just getting disintegrated. You have a bottom-up issue, you have nutrient loading in the ecosystem. So this kind of ecosystem changes is going to affect your blue carbon. So the coastal blue carbon and the schematic representation is very important. Am I audible to all of you, my friends?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. So, see, ultimately, all these, when I say carbon, I'm going to stuff it. We'll come to the Indian Ocean. What's happening in the Indian Ocean, I'll specifically come. That's an episode different. I've just put the background on the general ocean structure and the ocean, how climate science is impacting. So when you look at the blue carbon, definitely you have the coastal systems, you have carbon dioxide fixing, then you have the mangroves here, you have the dissolved organic carbon, which I already told, which is released from the disintegration of the viruses, which disintegrates the ciliates and flagellates and releases large amount of dissolved organic carbon, very minute fractions. We have also the labile fractions. Inorganic carbon, particulate organic carbon, carbon dioxide is released. You have the salt marshes also out here. You have the phytoplankton, the microorganisms, the microphytoplankton, all these, and the seagrasses. So the carbon dioxide is something which you want to sustain. So, every year, coastal wetlands sequester or offset, regulate. What is offsetting? I'll come to that later. Offsetting. I'll just take you through the contact, carbon trading, carbon tax, carbon. So all these link to that at the end of this talk. Offsetting and burning almost 1 billion barrels of oil. Coastal wetlands, it's very, see, ocean systems and marine systems, I will link it to coastal oceans. I will link it to the wetlands. I will link it to coral reefs. I will link it to the mangroves. I will link it to all these. So because all those are very important in regulating. Because coastal wetlands, we have studied a lot. We have looked. I will come to that. How much of carbon is fixed in the Cochin estuary? How much of carbon is getting fixed in the mangrove systems? I will also come to how much of carbon is getting fixed in the Arctic systems. That also I will just come to. So 726 of carbon of coal, emissions can offset 1 hectare of mangrove. You see, my friends, how resilient the system is. The only habitat that can continuously sequester, store carbon in the millennium can double seagrasses. 1 hectare of seagrass can store 2 times the carbon that is the average terrestrial forest. So you can see that coastal wetlands, even though small, they are mighty and cover almost 1% of the ocean and can capability of almost storing 50% of the seabed's rich carbon reserves. So the human impacts and the anthropogenic issues are really serious. You can see the marine systems contributing to climate change. We have I already mentioned this is a recent article by Ubadhyay, which says 2023, which says that the groundwater is getting affected, the sedimentation of particles. So you can see all types of carbon dissolved, and nitrogen is also yes, nitrous oxide, nitrogen dioxide. All these are serious issues which get converted to be carbon dioxide, and it gets through. You see, the ability on process, the bubbling of carbon dioxide. You see, this is also seen in the paddy fields, in our paddy fields, which are emanators of carbon dioxide. Please, my friends, it's not, but they are part of the wetlands. If you look at we have studied the wetlands in the paddy fields and the paddy coastlands, we have found that they, through the process of evolution, evolution and the bubbling, methane is released, and that gets converted through different pathways through bacterial action. It gets converted to methane, carbon dioxide. So the organic and inorganic matter flow of the terrestrial ecosystems, the surface runoff. So the increasing concentration of greenhouse gas results in global warming, and you can see the diffusive flux of carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrogen. So the combination of the greenhouse gases is going to be very, very important. And the agricultural runoff, this is very, 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 very important. And this agricultural runoff, it can enhance industrial activity, anthropogenic activity. All these can one way or other affect your ecosystems. So the sequestration of Cochin mangroves, we have looked at the sequestration, how much of carbon is fixed. You have a large in Cochin, this is a case study we did in Cochin mangroves. We have a large biomass pool. The litter fall, the dry leaves which fall and forms a large soil pool, and the total carbon stock of Cochin mangroves, which is equivalent to the carbon dioxide. See, you can calculate these through the IPCC, Intergovernmental panel. They have come out with the IPCC reports, and they've come out with wonderful guidelines, and you can calculate the global warming potential and the amount of carbon which is getting fixed and how much is stored, how much of temperature rises there. All these can be calculated. So in Cochin estuary, you have Cochin mangroves, you have 13 true mangroves. Average basal stand area we have calculated. We have calculated the above ground, below ground biomass. High biomass of stock played an important role in carbon sink. So the amount of carbon fixed at different levels of the ecosystem, that it may be through the bioengineering or a geoengineering process is referred to as sequestration and the carbon sequestration. I showed you in the previously how much of labile carbon, how much of organic carbon, how much of the organic carbon, how much of particulate carbon is getting fixed in different compartments of the ecosystem. So this system, you see, I told you that I'm also again stressing the point that ocean is always in the state of movement. And when you look the jet, the jet of flow of water, the jet, starting from the Pacific to Atlantic and the Arctic, this starts from the Arctic region, it flows, and it takes almost 1,000 years for one rotation, over 1,000 years. And this 1,000 years, it carries everything with it when the ocean is moving. And this global transcontinental area global conveyor belt is always in a state of motion. It's carrying nutrients, it's carrying particulates, it's carrying all stuff, and it is providing the energy to the ocean systems. And this is regulating the oceans. And whenever there is a rise in temperature, when there is sea level rise, when there is temperature rise, everything is going to get affected. So in a coastal marginal ecosystem like mangrove ecosystems, the species biomass, environmental and geographical conditions play a significant role in determining the litter, even the litter fall. Say the primary production and how much it goes to 7.12 to 2.81 teratons of carbon. So the amount of blue carbon that is getting fixed is relevant to the mangrove. See, mangrove ecosystem, my friends, don't think that it is just isolated. No, they're exporters of carbon. They export carbon because you see that's going to nourish your coastal and also the oceanic system. So your organic carbon, your amount of carbon, your nutrients are supplemented. You see, even during an upwelling or during a mud bank formation, there's a lot of export of carbon. And this export of carbon and storage of blue carbon maintains the equivalent and will be able to regulate your carbon dioxide equivalent. Otherwise your carbon dioxide equivalent will go up. And this partial carbon dioxide, this is something which you need to regulate. Otherwise, your carbon is released and your carbon dioxide is getting enhanced ecosystems. See, carbon dioxide flux we have calculated from the values of the productivity. We calculated the carbon dioxide flux, and we found that the gross production. And this is a process. This is a study which was done. Rani was my PhD student. She's finished, and now she's a chief minister's postdoc. Chief Minister postdoc, and her study has come out, and this is a very important journal, and Journal of Environmental Management has been published. So let me tell you that this understands that it is going to offset how much of your carbon dioxide. Even Cochin mangroves are degraded, high carbon dioxide removal capacity. So it is going to be an emitter. There's got a lot, even though mangroves are sinks of carbon. Please understand oceans, each ecosystem has zone. Most usually oceans are sinks of carbon dioxide or your greenhouse gases. But here, in carbon dioxide, in Cochin mangroves is getting degraded. You see the amount of 80.04% of carbon assimilated by these sesame crabs. The crabs are the greatest crabs are present within they are present in the burrows and holes around, and they actually break and they break and they consume a lot. So the leaf litter is very, very important. And you have climate regulation is carbon dioxide equivalent to the carbon stock. Global warming potential of greenhouse gases is very, very relevant. You have the carbon stock, 539 tons per carbon per hectare. Carbon dioxide sequestration is 102 gram per meter. We have calculated the greenhouse gas emissions is 91.2 millimole, and methane you see 150 millimole, and nitrous oxide is 21 millimole. So this has also been published. You said carbon dioxide equivalent to stock as economic evaluation of the carbon is almost 3772478. So you can do a carbon stock evaluation also for the positive, how it can be mitigated. This is very, very relevant. You can see how much of sequestered from precipitation, from climate, from how it is regulated, you can see here. And so Cochin Estuary, you can see in Cochin Estuary and the Cochin mangroves play a positive role. Here you can see Cochin Estuary plays a positive role in climate regulation. You can see the amount of, we have calculated the greenhouse gases here, and the carbon pool we have calculated. We have also calculated the carbon potential of blue carbon contribution by methodic organisms in the Arctic systems. You can see the decreasing sea ice in the Arctic systems. The polar bears are getting affected. The vast blue carbon stock in the Arctic fjords have been calculated, and these have all been published. And we could see significantly offsetting the carbon dioxide emissions contributing to global. Total carbon in the sediment was calculated to 29.23, up or down to 5.3, over 50% of the total carbon in the sediment. Blue carbon was contributed by the large number of very worm-like nematodes, and you could see atmospheric carbon and carbon burial and nutrient supply were also 2% of the total carbon, and forams also contributed a zinc. So many of these phytoplankton, zooplankton, benthos were contributing. We could see the nematodes and forams in the myobenthic organisms within these organisms I've shown here have an important role in regulating your blue carbon. So climate change impacts the ocean warming, acidification, deoxygenation. Marine systems, you know, we are getting affected, accelerated by greenhouse gases. Carbon dioxide, I'm just showing you pre-industrial levels here. Methane also 17 during the pre-industrial. Now post-industrial is crossing 1800 ppb. Nitrous oxide is less than 280. It is post-industrial 334. My friends, it's seriously. Marine ecosystems absorb 20-30% carbon dioxide emissions since the industry. By 2100, it's predicted that partial carbon dioxide will rise to 940 micro atmospheres. And you can see pH may decrease from 0.13 to 0.42 units depending on the climate scenario. pH of seawater is also decreased from the pre-industrial 8.17 to the current value of 8.06, suggesting 34.91% in activity. So you can see that the global rise in sea level has also been 8 to 9 inches since 1880. 2021 global sea level has risen to 3.8. 1993 levels, the global rate of sea level is accelerating, doubled from 0.06 inch per year throughout the 20th century, 0.14 inch per year. You can see up to 2050. You can see the rise in sea level. It's almost the rate of the 3.8 it is risen, and 8 to 9 inch it is from 1880. See, 0.14 inch per year it is rising. So does sea level rise affect societies? Yes, Sundarbans is affected because of coastal erosion and submergence. Yes, because of the rise, 2-degree rise, Paris Agreement, melting of sea ice contributed to over 26 centimeters sea level rise into the 2100. Global rise in temperatures, 5-degree ice sheets are melting, 51 centimeters to sea level rise, 2100. Global sea level rise could exceed 2 meters, the flooding up to 1.8 million square kilometers. 1.2% of the global land area is displacing almost 187 million people. Imagine the seriousness of this. You can see the climate change impacts. That is, you can see 2024 records that is hottest, and you can see the hottest in about January, February, you can see. And this hottest fully with 13.54, the warmest you can see a year. Indians are already experiencing temperatures close to limits of the human survivability. You can see thousands die each year, and the planet is reaching temperatures to the precipice where it's getting worse. I've given you the temperature charts where the data of climate change, which you can see up to 2023, you can see here. Now you can see the Jeff Goodwell, Goodwell as in a recent article written that New York Times bestseller, climate change impacts on the heat waves. You can see that the 1.5 degree breach has already happened and life is evolved, and we need to really, you can see the doomsday urgent is also proposed, because methane is rising and greenhouse gas carbon dioxide significantly contributed since 1750, and methane is 25 times greater, more impactful and more serious than carbon dioxide, contributing to a cumulative warming of 0.5 degrees global increase compared to carbon dioxide contribution. So we need to really look into ambitious plans to reduce methane emissions, and if any chance of staying within the Paris Declaration of the warming limit of 1.5. So the dengue dynamics, you can see dengue is also rising because of future increase in changing monsoon and climate change. This has been recently an article by Sophia et al. Has been published in 2025 in Nature. Modern rain spread over summer season has led to an increase in dengue mortality. So the heavy rains reduce dengue through flushing effect, indicating links to dengue and the monsoon intra-seasonal variability. Warm temperatures of over 27 degrees, the humidity levels between 60 degree and 70, 80, 60 to 80%, 78% is the risk of dengue, which is well postulated in a recent study which has been showing the monsoon climate in India. Impact of climate change has led to extreme weather events. 31 years, we have lost almost 3.8 trillion. Last 20 years, if you see 400 disasters per year, almost 4 times that of the previous years. You have also the Wayanad disaster, which has happened, because you will be thinking it is not related much to marine systems. Yes, the amount of atmospheric warming has a serious impact on the Wayanad's landslides, because natural factors, heavy rainfall, yes, the geological conditions, human factors, the entire rainfall suddenly changing in the Arabian Sea, the mesoscale cloud formation in the Arabian Sea led to the excessive rainfall, triggering landslide, and the cascading and the cataclysmic effect of the downslides caused serious impacts in Mundakai, Churanmala, Mepadi, Gram Panchayat, almost killing several of our brethren and kith and kin. So climate change is definitely, even we found this change in the mangrove die-off, the dieback issues in the Maldives. You can see the large-scale die-off of mangrove species of Bruguera cylindrica in the northern islands. You could see patches of die-off of mangrove Bruguera cylindrica. The phenomenon was noticed in 2020 in 11 islands. We noticed it, we went, and I was deputed to study this serious issue of mangrove die-off. This is all part of the serious impact of climate change. And we could see several of the mangrove islands affected by, we could see the dieback, large areas of dieback was affected in almost 10 islands. This mass die-off was linked to the La Nina, the cooling of the atmosphere in the Pacific Ocean, and led to the positive changes in the Indian Ocean dipole. The high atmospheric temperature led to the basin mangroves, enhanced soil salinity, led to the salinity stress of the Bruguera cylindrica species of mangrove plant and the dieback purple. And also reduced rainfall, sea level rise also, along with this, all these cumulative effect and rise in sea level. The salt water also was a factor. Then also affected the pond mangroves, if you look at the pond mangroves, this didn't have much effect. Only largely it was affected in the basin mangroves, and no enhancement in soil salinity, where there was, so this rise in temperature, cooling of the atmosphere, La Nina, triple La Nina conditions 20, 21, 22, and also positive Indian Ocean dipole issues, where reasons for enhanced salinity, enhanced the characteristics of the soil led to the tolerance also affected to, and the salinity rising to 25 PSU, and the mass die-off of mangrove in the islands. If you look at the Indian Ocean, it's the largest ocean, covering around over 70.56 million square kilometers. You can see the Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal, the Andaman Sea, the large number of oceans, the Persian Gulf, bounded by Asia, Africa, and Australia, Southern Ocean. Indian monsoon system controls the seasonal reversal of wind and current patterns, sea surface. It's a huge dynamic ecosystem. It's not very easy to discuss in just few minutes. But the entire summer monsoon, strong winds drive upwelling, the Somali currents and the coast and the Arabian Sea, enhancing the nutrient supply, supporting rich marine life. Winter monsoon causes the downwelling, lowering of the nutrient availability. Here you can see the carbon storage and the carbon fixation. The carbon sequestration is 0.2 to 0.3 gigatons of carbon is fixed per year in the Arabian Sea through the high productivity driven seasonal upwelling and strong monsoonal activity. So the atmospheric ocean interaction and heat transfer, gas exchange, all happens within these wonderful ocean Arabian and the Indian Ocean systems in the larger ocean systems. And if you look at the Indian Ocean systems, net productivity in the Indian Ocean is 300 to 380 milligram carbon per meter cube. High primary productivity is observed in the summer and autumn. And you can see the Western Indian Ocean, you have this also in the winter, spring, summer monsoons. You can see the primary productivity is 600,000. Eastern Indian Ocean, you have 42, 420 to 500. Yes, prime productivity pattern of milligrams in coastal waters was around 1,000 to 1,200. Equatorial is 380. But also there was a decline. Yes, decline pattern in the Western Indian Ocean. And the climate change is something which I will just, prime production of the whole ocean is declining at the rate of at 0.85 milligram carbon per meter cube per day per year. This is something very serious which is getting affected. So the global ocean, if you look at the Indian Ocean primary production, this is very specific to the Indian Ocean. If you look at there's a climate change seriously affecting the energy transfer and productivity in the Indian Ocean. You can see the climate change factors influencing energy transfer in the Indian Ocean. You can see the ocean warming and stratification limits vertical distribution and the mixing of nutrients, reducing net primary production. Ocean acidification is seriously happening, affecting the carbon dioxide, low pH, and the decreased net primary production. Shifts in the phytoplankton species and composition. Shifts in wind patterns, marine heat waves, increase in metabolic rates. It will happen in phytoplankton, increasing heat waves, depleting energy reserves, limiting also reproduction potential. Cyclones and storm surges leading to prime production by stirring up the nutrients and long-term damage to ecosystems. So the factors like El Nino and La Nina, if you compare, you can see weaker, stronger in the monsoonal strength. Upwelling, it is reduced and enhanced. So all around the El Nino, the warming and the cooling of the ocean, especially starting from the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean dipole events associated with net primary productivity in the Western Indian Ocean. The triple dip in the La Ninas, the cooling of the Indian Ocean had serious risk of droughts, floods, and heat waves that led to extreme conditions or extreme rainfall and flooding in Australia, prolonged Africa and USA and greater in Atlantic hurricane activity. Yes, it also affected the climate change in Indian Ocean. Indian Ocean, you see surrounding countries stand out the highest risks of natural hazards in coastal communities, especially vulnerable to weather and climate extremes. Ocean warming, you can see the warming. Indian Ocean is warming at accelerated rate. You see the warming is happening at 1.2 degrees per 1950 to 2020. Climate models predicted, and you see climate models also predicted almost 1.7 to 3.8 degrees. And 2020 to 2100 causes expansion of the oceans, leading to sea level rise. Rise in ocean temperatures intensifies contributors. See, it's impacted the oceans, you see it's getting dead and barren in impact of ocean warming on the seagrasses and the ocean beds. Rises intensified, contributing to stronger cyclones. Cyclones in Indian Ocean, you see it is rising, where Bengal, you can see it is 4%. Arabian Sea is less than 2%. Total number of cyclones in Indian Ocean is less than 6%. So you can see the Indian Ocean accounts for over 80% of the global fatalities due to cyclones. You can see the graphical representation here. So the cyclones, you see 5 to 6 cyclones per year in the per year in Indian Ocean. You see in 2019, you could see 8 cyclonic storms formed. The frequency of cyclonic storms also has risen 1 per decade over the last 2 decades. You could also see the IMD has started naming cyclones in 2004, and the first cyclone was named in Onil. You could see the number of cyclones here in the Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea, and the higher sea surface temperature, more powerful cyclones and faster tropical cyclone formation has been. Marine heat waves is something which I have to really focus on, because the marine heat waves disrupt marine ecosystems, increase in coral bleaching and depleting fish populations. The rising heat waves you can see in 1960, and you see the rising heat waves in 2100. Marine heat waves almost 20 to 50 times more. You can see more, and you could see more. You could see it's affecting the extreme weather. It is affected by crescendo ocean stresses, biodiversity loss, and economic loss. Marine heat waves. It is. You can see the large projected changes in the Indian Ocean. You could see, and this projected by AICTE ATAL in 2024. 90% of the marine system, recent cyclones in the Arabian Sea linked to marine heat waves, leading to destructive events in the also the recent cyclone Amphan in 2020. So the heat wave changes, future rise in heat wave content is comparable to adding energy equivalent to one Hiroshima atom bomb detonation every second, all over, every day, a decade, according to Rossi Matthew as a recent extreme levels of ocean you can see. And this rise, you could see a rising temperatures and ocean temperatures. Shifts in pH is very, very important. Annually, Indian Ocean absorb almost 500 to 7,000 million tons of carbon dioxide atmosphere. Over the past decades, almost 40 to 50% of the carbon dioxide is released by the humans, acting as sinks of carbon. That's I already highlighted. Increase in so this rise in greenhouse gases, increase in hydrogen ion causes pH to decrease and leading to ocean acidification. Indian Ocean tends to be warmer than other oceans compared to carbon dioxide because of the reduces the efficiency. I already highlighted the solubility pump. Causes the reduced calcification of marine organisms. Yes, corals, mollusks, also affecting alter the biological pump, which I already mentioned, changes in the ecosystem dynamics, dissolution of carbonates, sediments negatively impact carbon sequestration. Can also transform Indian Ocean as a source of atmospheric carbon. So you could see the changes in the atmospheric carbon, greenhouse gases. I already told you it's going to be very important. Yes, you're going to create oxygen minimum zones in the Indian Ocean and climate change impacts. Yes, Arabian Sea has got the second most intense oxygen minimum zone in the oxygen minimum zones that anoxic conditions, oxygen minimum conditions are going to develop, has already developed in the tropical ocean near the total depletion of dissolved oxygen, depths to 200 to 1,000 meters. And you could see Bay of Bengal oxygen minimum zones are weaker. This is also because the dissolved oxygen everywhere remaining because of the denitrification threshold. So the increase in climate change, ocean warming, altered ocean currents and circulation patterns affecting the DO distribution, dissolved oxygen, increased eutrophication, IOD events, yes, Indian Ocean, dipole events caused by fluctuations in sea surface, chlorophyll affect the ocean. Yes, pollution is a major issue of the Indian Ocean. You can see marine plastics, plastic pollution, most polluted, almost 15 million tons of plastic enters in the ocean every year. 73% of the plastic waste is inadequately managed or in the Indian Ocean rim states. 1/5 of the total plastic comes from the marine activity. Oil spills and hydrocarbon pollution. This is also going to average. In the Arabian Sea, you can see 32.5 microgram gram per carbon per year. That is also average concentration of dissolved hydrocarbon. And also Bay of Bengal, it's 24.1. Huge chemical load of sewages, nutrients, chemicals, pathogens, and also industrial waste receives 4.1 square kilometers of meter cube of domestic sewage and 0.1 meter cube of industrial waste. See, all these are going to add and are key aspects. So Indian Ocean has a major role in provide the strategic trade routes, geopolitical influence on the cultural exchange between countries, provide economic resources, climate regulation, and the Indian Ocean. So the blue economy management in the Indian Ocean exchange is very, very important. So I already highlighted the planetary boundaries proposed by Johann Rockstrom is very, very important in main driver of global climate change, because beyond the climatic boundaries, it's irreversible to abrupt change in the planetary environmental changes that makes Earth inhabitable. And the 9 boundaries are the climate change, biodiversity loss. All of you, please don't forget ocean acidification, land use, the ocean depletion, atmospheric aerosols, chemical pollution, freshwater use, geochemical cycle. So the planetary boundaries, yes, it is changing globally. Variable, I already told, I'm not going to tell. The glaciers are melting. You have accelerated Greenland and Western Antarctic ice. This is what is already broken up and it's just moving very fast. Sheets, yes, sea level rise, frequent wildfires, droughts, increase in number of duration of tropical storms. Yes, climate change. You have ocean layer depletion. Yes, planetary boundaries concerned to marine systems. Harmful to UV radiation, sun control, and you have 1980 increased level of ozone depleting chemical substances. The Antarctic zone you have seen. Actions S need to be accelerated in the Montreal Protocol, keeping the planet within safe boundaries. You have ocean boundaries, ocean acidification along the ocean boundaries. It's very important. Carbon dioxide, humanity emits large amount of ocean carbon dioxide, and carbonic acid acidity increases, affecting corals, shellfishes, plankton to build up shells and skeletons. Biogeochemical cycle affecting. Yes, biogeochemical cycling, because of the nitrogen phosphorus has been radically changed by humans as a result of industrial and agricultural activities, fertilizers, and nitrogen phosphorus ends up in reverse. And yes, biodiversity loss. Yes. Yes, we have the recommendations of the WA2 highlights the urgent need for action to address many challenges of the world ocean, including climate change. Report underscores World Ocean Report as two reports that we have to be important in ocean health, and you have to be very, very crucial in highlighting the for health of the planet and the well-being of humanity. The calls for collaborative and integrated approach in ocean management. You have the ocean decade for 2021 and 2020 up to 2030. The science we need is for ocean we want, because we need to look at the United Nations Ocean Science for Sustainable Development is a 10-year global initiative up to 2030, aims to promote international collaboration in ocean science. It is research, innovation in ocean health, and ensure successful and sustainable use of ocean resources. The IOC, Intergovernmental Oceanic Commission, also UNESCO is also relevant to the urgent need for all these, and the governments and organization, academia, we are all relevant to maintain ocean decade harnesses interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary research for sustainable development. The World Meteorological Organization State of the Global Climate Report also found that there's a rise, which I already discussed, droughts, floods, heat waves, global temperature rising, Antarctic sea fall, global temperatures 2015 to 2028, warmest years despite the La Nina event for the past 3 years. Melting of glaciers, sea level rise, which again records to 2022, will continue up to thousands of years. So you need to have stringent, sustainable marine ecosystem conservation programs and strategies. Legislation for the sea, UN, the UNCLOS 1982 is to be still enforced. You need to have Marine Man and Biosphere Program. Yes, UNESCO, UNEP, United Nations Environment Programs, IUCN programs for conservation. Yes, we need to enhance the marine protected areas. Very, very important. And these marine protected areas, we have several marine protected areas in India. You have 33 sanctuaries in India, but we see the state of all our marine systems are getting poor and depleted. Marine protected laws in India is also very, very important. And they are all coastal regulation, zone coastal regulation acts are there. All these, and the Ramsar Convention, World Heritage Convention, CITES, Bonn Convention, conventions on biodiversity are all very relevant. There is also a sense of marine life. Yes, OBIS also is a lot of information on OBIS, Ocean Biogeographic Information System, provide a lot of information and database on biodiversity of the oceans. We need to know about the valuation of marine systems, the ocean ecosystems, because when you do a study on the carbon, blue carbon, when you do a study on the value of these ecosystems, the professional, the cultural, and the regulating services, you have to assess the costs and benefits for actually and the decision for making. To understanding the benefits to society, ecosystem is series linked to ecosystems, maybe for linked to the quantitative and qualitative through economic evaluation. So valuing the marine systems, maybe for various aspects, maybe the marshes, the sea, mangroves, all these, maybe the estuaries, the rivers, coastal rivers, all these joining to the marine ecosystems are all very important. And when you look at this, the valuation has well been made, and economic evaluation of marine ecosystems, the resource changes, inter-services. You could see the open ocean and the marine ecosystem, how much you see 2021. You see Constanta in 2014 gave a value, and you could see how much of this area and the unit, it is about 1,368 dollars per US dollars per hectare per year. Yes, this is a charge in 2011-27. Open ocean is given for coastal waters. Yes, all these have been. Somebody is talking. I don't know. Yes. Okay, now we come to the regulatory frameworks. The COP16, the 26th United Nations climate change was very important in regulating the ocean and managing the marine systems. These international systems or the regulating systems is a commitment we need to do, and the nationally determined contributions intends to contribute to reducing the greenhouse emissions and the gases and adapting to the impacts. And this is something very important. The COP27, the stock-taking climate finance, and this stock-taking climate finance led by America and US and China agreed to work to reduce. So every country, you see, the nationally determined contributions to reduce and contribute to the reducing the greenhouse gases is very. So the NDC is very important. And if you look at the commitment from the private sector will be 130 trillion clean energy, and you have to 137 countries, you have to halt forest laws, land degradation. All these are commitments which was taken in COP26. COP27 also, we continued with the stock taking of climate finance, and China and US and countries decided for targets and ensure the loss of damage fund. So they proposed the damage fund, adequately funded, and it used to support the vulnerable countries. COP28 was also identified for limiting global temperature to 1.5 degrees. 200 countries participated, and a critical issue of net zero emissions. 29 also mobilized, and enabling action to 1.5 degrees was also proposed in the redefining climate science. And also very recently in Kazan, world leaders met, and BRICS also discussed ways to combat the climate change, and ocean was a very important area. And all these decided to permit the right to emit 1 ton of carbon dioxide. A tradable certificate issued countries to reduce emissions to global warming and greenhouse gas effect of emissions in this. How does carbon credits work? So government sets cap on all carbon dioxide that is emitted to companies. The government allocates the credits, to the companies based on historic emissions. And this is quantified through allocated credits. One can sell credits to companies and also emit more than associated. Very, very important, my friends. Tomorrow, in another 20 years, 30 years, we will have measurements in carbon credits. Every infrastructure facilities, every facilities in our country is also going to be priced with carbon credits determined by supply. So carbon credits of marine ecosystem in blue carbon, if you want to calculate, if a mangrove ecosystem a restoration project fixes carbon dioxide, 50 tons of carbon dioxide per year, this can aim to 50 credits of carbon is fixed. You're going to get, yes, mangrove store 10 times more than carbon than the terrestrial. So you're going to fix how much of carbon, 50 tons of carbon dioxide per year. You can earn 50 carbon credits. So you can earn how much of credit. Carbon offsetting is also there, reducing your greenhouse gas emissions. So one of the mechanism of global climate mitigation is warming is offsetting through purchase of carbon credits. So the carbon credits you can buy and generated by products, different projects can come, and it can reduce your carbon. And carbon offsetting is also came up with the Kyoto Protocol targets, and projection is net zero carbon 2050. It has come in various agencies through various strategies, maybe forest, renewable energy, marine ecosystems, agriculture, waste energy, chemical. All these, if you're able to manage in offset projects, you're going to get your offset. And this is something very important. Carbon offsetting in oceans, you can see 26% of all human-induced carbon dioxide is absorbed through oceans. So carbon dioxide through your food chain, or if you're going to release your uptake, control through gas exchange, biological cycle, or you're going to offset through your carbon dioxide. So carbon trading, you can do trading and buying and selling carbon credits, cost-effective way to reduce your carbon greenhouse gases. Maybe market-based solutions to climate change, and promote innovation in energy, clean energy technologies, create jobs in clean energy. Carbon neutrality is the balancing of carbon emission in carbon absorption from atmosphere in carbon sinks. Yes, that is carbon neutral. So tomorrow you're going to speak in terms of offsetting, trading, neutrality, and also neutrality and its management. So Are we in a state of climate polycrisis? Are we in a state of compounded by climate change, planetary boundary issues, and also physical impacts of climate change, rising temperatures, sea level rise, socioeconomic? The national carbon accounting system of the entire nation, one carbon accounting framework, carbon book is going to be effective, and this climate polycrisis is going to be managed by the carbon book and the carbon taxing systems. You have to ensure a net zero effectiveness by 2070. So you need to go, countries are going to have a carbon tax coming up. Many countries have now started developing carbon tax. Otherwise, you're going to have an annual temperature change, which is, see, World Meteorology Organization, as well as the Copernicus has postulated a rise in temperature. This is what I'm going to show you. A grim scenario of 1.5 degrees is postulated. And you see this 1.5 degrees, a critical point, 1.65 of carbon dioxide reached, 420 ppm, very, very catastrophic event. So all these are going to create, yes, all your 26, COP26, 27, 28, all stressed. The IPCC is stressed on rise. Monthly annual breaches of 1.5 degree. Every additional is going to affect your agricultural ecological droughts, limiting global warming to 1.5. Exceeding 1.5 is going to multiple your climate tipping points. Yes, very much. That is your boreal permafrost is going to get thawed. Breakdown of major ocean circulation. I told about the global conveyor belt. It's going to break up, collapse of your coral reef systems, abrupt and discernible, and the dangerous impacts of humanity. Yes, it's going to devastate climate and intensifying extreme warming events, alarming, yes, sea ice melting. I already told glaciers, several mass coral bleaching events, widespread harms on people and economies. Yes, IPCC has put up across. You're going to have 55 vulnerable, climate vulnerable economies are going to change. Climate change is going to exceed, and disasters, 32.6 million internal displacement. Yes, there are going to be refugees caused by floods and storms and wildfires. Yes, we have the Los Angeles wildfires and so many things going to bed. So lots of people are going to, you have the Amazon changes in the Amazon river system, the oceans, droughts are going to happen. Human health are going to affect, ocean is going to greatly linked to human health. And it's going to apparent to be in last 20 years, climate polycrisis, I will call it. It's going to be treated as a global public health emergency. Cumulative death over 2000 will pass to 4 million in 2024. So you're going to have diseases, malnutrition, and also extreme climate events. Yes, many climate events of sea level rise, yes, ice sheets, disappearance in the mountain glaciers, acidification, all has enormous magnitude it's going to have. So pathways for limiting, you have, this is from a UN postulation. You can see the net zero global carbon dioxide rise, you see, and you have a plus 0.3 to 3.2 degrees, is postulated up here, you can see 2100. If you need to have steep cuts to maintain the green levels. Otherwise, you're going to be on a very sad path. Pathways for limiting is temporary offshoot global has to be greenhouse, has to be reduced to 43% by 2030 relative to 2019. And global carbon dioxide emission, largely from fossil fuels, continue to rise, and alarming rates of carbon budget in limiting long-term warming. And there is 1.C, and you have 250 to 270 billion tons of carbon dioxide would be depleted by 2050. You need to 2030. You have target for 2030. So the countries we need to have keep the commitments with Paris Agreement, COP28 increase in ambitious plan, national climate conditions. All I said, we need to bend the global emissions curve and the production of consumption of coal, oil, and gas downward starting now, UNEP. And wide solutions have to come, already deployed successfully. Already I told you had to have. So at the end, Article 51AH, it's the duty of every citizen of India to develop scientific temper. So each of us, almost 80 plus colleagues who have joined for this wonderful FDP program, all to have, along with me, will have the scientific temper for humanism and spirit of inquiry to reform. Ocean literacy is something we need to carry. Major principle, Earth is a big ocean, numerous features. Ocean and life, ocean shape the features of the Earth. Ocean has significant impact on climate and weather. Ocean makes planet habitable. Ocean is a home for a wide variety of species. Ocean is an elixir of life and is inextricably interconnected. Ocean is largely unexplored, The principles provide the framework Understanding the complex relation of human and ocean emphasizes the need for ocean literacy, ocean conservation, and strategies, protection of ocean and restoration, building climate resilient infrastructure, developing green ports, and yes, this is very, very important, green ports and low carbon shipping. This is something which we don't have. We have to, I think the present government of India is looking out for hydrogen-based shipping, hydrogen-based programs, reduce greenhouse gases at the ocean warming, limiting long-term climate ocean monitoring is required. Indian Ocean Rim States cooperation among Indian Ocean, establishing expanded marine protected areas, capacity building initiatives have to come, access to international climate finances to develop, Ocean Governance Forum and Blue Economy Development plans to get bolstered and boosted, improving research funding and fellowships. Healthy ocean is a healthy planet. Thank you all so much for a great and wonderful listening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful session. Now we will move on to a Q&A session. Participants are free to unmute yourselves and ask any queries or post them in the chat box.
Did I take extra time or did I finish in time? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's in time, sir. It's in time. No problem. Sir.
Oh, nice. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, may I ask one small question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, I have heard about this coral bleaching. Could you just tell me, just highlight on that a little bit?
Yeah. Corals, usually it's a slightly pale yellow in color. What happens is actually the corals, have a zooxanthellae, a dinoflagellate. You see, it has got a lot of, and the color and the sustenance of these zooxanthellae within these corals, that provide a symbiotic relation with both of this. Both get benefited. The zooxanthellae, which produces the nitrogen base that is used by the corals, and the same thing, it gets protection in the corals, and they have a very good symbiotic relation. And this symbiotic relation continues in the ecosystems. And once, because of the warming of the sea, and I told you the temperature is rising. If the temperature rises to in even our Lakshadweep or in the Andaman, the corals we have observed in the Lakshadweep atolls also, you could see that the rise in temperature going up to 35 degrees, 36 degrees, or 37 degrees, 35 plus degrees. And immediately the zooxanthellae are expelled out, and it cannot sustain it. And the corals become pale, it becomes white, and it just dies off. And this destruction is coral bleaching. The coloring of the bleaching of the coral happens. And if you go towards the Lakshadweep, you can see, and the Gulf of Mannar is seriously facing coral bleaching, and the expulsion of the zooxanthellae and the symbiotic relation, where because for the corals it takes nourishment from the zooxanthellae, and the zooxanthellae also gets protection in the corals, and they are the kind of dinoflagellates. They have a kind of chemical bonding, and this, once it's expelled, and the coral dies. And also along with that, this is all happening because of the rise in temperature. And also mass die-off of corals is also reported in some of the Acropora corals, the Favia corals, and some kind of hard corals and soft corals have died off in the Gulf of Mannar and the Lakshadweep waters. This is the basic concept of coral bleaching.
Okay,
I think I'm clear to you.
Yeah, it is very clear now.
Yes.
Thank you.
I hope it was useful to my colleagues. I think so. I don't know. I just told a lot of things.
There is no doubt that it was heavily useful.
Yes.
Most of the people are from the engineering background, but then the biology part also needs to be known, no? Because we want to devise systems and we want to understand this kind of system. So
right, sir. Right, sir.
Okay.
I think I simplified it. I just put it. I think so.
Thank you, sir. Seems like there are no more questions.
Oh, nice.
Now I kindly invite Dr. Suraj Rajan for delivering the vote of thanks.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. It is my honor and privilege to propose the thanks on behalf of Department of Chemical Engineering, Amal Jyoti College of Engineering, for today's insightful and enriching session. I extend our heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished speaker, Dr. S. Bijoy Nandan, for taking the time to share your expertise with us. We are protecting marine ecosystem, a key strategy for climate resilience, was not only thought-provoking but also practical and highly relevant to the goals of this faculty development program. Your insights into the specific points like protecting marine ecosystem, carbon credits, carbon trading, etc., have provided us with a fresh perspective and tools that we can effectively apply in our academic and professional endeavors. We deeply appreciate your dedication and effort in preparing such a valuable session for us. On behalf of everyone present over here, I express our sincere gratitude for your invaluable contribution to this faculty development program. We look forward to staying connected and hope to have the privilege of learning from you again in the future. With a token of gratitude, Department of Chemical Engineering, Amal Jyoti College of Engineering, sharing a virtual memento with you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my friend. Dr. Suraj. Suraj, thank you so much. All my colleagues, thank you.
Yeah,
A great day
thank
today.
you, sir. Thank you so much,
We'll
sir.
meet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.